Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, my name is Abdurochim. I am a student of Magister Management at University State of Jakarta. I want to make a presentation to fulfill for an operation management exam assignment with my lecturer is Mr. Agung Darmawan Bugdadi PhD. Forecasting. Before we talk about forecasting, I want to share some story about Disney. When it comes to the world's most respected global brands, Walt Disney Park and Resort is a visible leader, although the monarch of this magic kingdom is no man but Mickey Mouse. Its CEO is Robert Iger, who daily manages the entertainment giant. Disney global portfolio includes Shanghai Disney, Hong Kong Disney, Disneyland Paris, and Tokyo Disneyland. That drive profit in more than $50 billion corporation, with each rank is in the top 100 in both Fortune 500 and Financial Times Global 500. Revenue at Disney are all about people. How many visit the park and how they spend money while there. When Iger received a daily report from his 14 parks and 2 partner parks near Orlando, the report contains only 2 numbers. Forecast of yesterday, attendance at the park. It is Magic Kingdom, Echo Port, Disney Animal Kingdom, Disney Hollywood Studio, Typhoon Lagoon, and Bizarre Beach. At the actual attendance, an error close to 0 expected. Iger take his forecast very seriously. The forecasting team at Walt Disney World Resort doesn't just do a daily prediction. However, and Iger is not only the customer. The team also provides daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and 5-year forecasts to the labor management, maintenance, operations, finance, and park scheduling department. Forecasts use judgmental models, economics models, moving average model, and regression analysis. With 20% of Walt Disney World Research customers coming from outside the US, its economic models include such a variable as gross domestic product or GDP, cross exchange rates, and arrival into the US. Disney also used 35 analysis and 70 field people to survey 1 million people each year. They survey administrators to guests at the park and its 20 hotels to employees. And to travel industry professional, examine future travel plans and experience at the park. This helps forecast not only attendance but also behavior at each ride. Input to the monthly forecasting model include airline specials, speeches by a chair on the Federal Reserve, the Wall Street Trends. Disney even monitor 3,000 school districts inside and outside the US for holiday or vacation schedules. With this approach, Disney 5-year attendance forecast yield just 5% error on average. Its annual forecast have 0 to 3% error. Attendance forecast for the park ride, a whole slew of management decisions. For example, capacity on any day can be increased by opening at 8 a.m. instead of the usual 9 a.m. by opening more show or ride. They're adding more food or beverage carts. 5 million hamburger and 50 million Cokes are sold per year. And by bringing its more employees, cast members are scheduled 15 minutes interval through the park visibility. Demand can be managed by limiting number of guests admitted to the park with the fast pass reservation system and by shifting crowds from rides to more street parade. At Disney, forecasting is the key driver in the company's success and competitive advantage. So, what is forecasting? Everyday managers like those at Disney make decisions without knowing that will happen in the future. They order inventory without knowing what sales will be, purchase new equipment despite uncertainty about demand for product, and make investment without knowing what profit will be. I take this presentation from the book that represent from my lecture. Forecasting is the art and science of predicting future events. Forecasting may involve taking historical data such as past sales and projecting them into the future with mathematical models. A forecasting is usually classified by the future time horizon, that it covers time horizon fall into three categories: short-range forecast, medium-range forecast, and long-range forecast. Short-range forecast is the forecast has a time span of up to 1 year, but it's generally less than 3 months. And it is used for planning, purchasing, job scheduling, workplace level, job assignment, and production levels. For medium-range forecasts, medium-range forecast or immediate forecast generally span from 3 months to 3 years. It's useful in sales planning, production planning and budgeting, cash budgeting, analysis of various operating plans. The third is long-range forecast, generally 3 years or more than time span. Long-range forecasts are used in the planning for new products, capital expenditure, facility location and expansion, and reach development. Organizations use 3 major types of forecasts in the planning future operation: economic forecast, technological forecast, and demand forecast. The first, economic forecast, address the business cycle by predicting inflation rates, money supplies, housing starts, and other planning indicators. Technological forecasts are concerned with rates or technological progress, which can result in the birth of exciting new product requiring new plants and equipment. And the last is demand forecasts are projection of demand for company's product or service. Forecasts drive decisions, so managers need immediate, accurate information about real demand. They need demand-driven forecasts where the focus is rapidly identifying and tracking customer desire. These forecasts may use recent point of sales, or we can say POS data, retail generate report of customer preferences, and any other information that will help to forecast with the most current data possible. Demand-driven forecasts drive a company production, capacity, and scheduling system and serve as inputs to financial, marketing, and personal planning. In addition, payoff in reduced inventory and obsolescence can be huge. Forecasting follows 7 basic steps. We use like before is about Disney World. The focus is in this presentation is about global company profile. As an example of each step, they have 5 steps. The first is determine the use of forecast. The second is select the item to be forecasted. The third is determine the time horizon of the forecast. The fourth is select the forecasting model. The fifth is gather the data needed to make the forecast. Determine the forecast. Disney used the park attendance forecast to drive decision about staffing, opening times, ride, availability, and food supplies. And about the select the item to be forecasted for Disney World, there are 6 main parks. I'm sorry, I was research about this. A forecast a daily attendance at each in the main number that determines labor, maintenance, and scheduling. The third is about determine the time horizon of the forecast. It is short, medium, or long term. Disney level operation daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and 5-year forecast. The fourth is about select forecasting models. Disney use a variety of statistical models that we shall discuss, including moving average, econometrics, and regression analysis. It also employs judgmental or non-quantitative models. Gather the data needs to make the forecast. Disney forecasting team employs 35 analysis and 70 field personnel surveys. I was said to survey 1 million people or businesses every year. Disney also used the firm called Global Insight for travel industry forecasts and gathered data on the exchange rates arrival into US airline specials, Wall Street trends, and school variation students. There are 2 general approaches to forecasting. Just as there are 2 ways to tackle all deciding models. One is quantitative analysis, the other is qualitative approach. Quantitative forecasts use a variety of mathematical models that rely on historical data and or associative variable for forecast demand. Subjective or quantitative forecasts incorporate such factors as the decision maker institution, emotion, personal experience, and value system enrich a forecast. Some firms use approach and some use others. In practice, a combination of 2 is usually most effective. The first is qualitative forecast. It's jury of executive opinion, Delphi method, sales force composite, and market survey. For quantitative forecast methods, all of which use historical data, are described in this chart. They fall into 2 categories: time series models and associative models. Time series model is naive approach, moving average, and exponential smoothing. Associative model is trend projection and linear regression. Time series model predict on the assumption that the future is a function of the past. In other words, they look at what has happened over the period of time and use a series of data to make a forecast. If we are predicting sales of low mover, we use the past sales or low mover to make a forecast. Associative models, such as a linear regression, incorporate the variable or factor that might influence the quantity being forecast. For example, an associative model for low mover sales might use factors such as new housing start, advertising budget, and competitors' price. A time series is based on sequence of the evenly spaced, like weekly, monthly, quarterly, and so on. It is data points, samples. Includes weekly sales like Nike Air Jordan, quarterly earnings report of Microsoft stocks, daily shipment, or course beer, and annual consumer price indicates. Forecasting time series data implies that future value are predicted only from past values, and that other variable, no matter how potential valuable, may be ignored. Analyzing time series means breaking down past data into components and then projecting them forward. A time series has 4 components: trend, seasonality, cycles, and random variation. Let me explain about this. Trend is the gradual upward and downward movement of the data over time. Change, income, population, age distribution, or cultural view may account for movement in trend. Seasonality is a data pattern that repeats itself after a period days, weeks, months, or quarters. There are 6 common seasonality patterns. Restaurants and barbershop, for example, experience weekly seasons, with Saturday being the peak of business. See the in action box forecasting at Olive Garden, maybe. Beer distribution forecasts yearly patterns with monthly seasons. There are 3 seasons: May, July, and September. Each contain a big beer drinking holiday. The third is about cycles, a pattern in the data that occur every several years. They are usually tied into the business cycles and are of major importance in the short-term business. Business analysis and planning. Predicting business cycles is difficult because they may be affected by political events, by international turmoil. The last is about random variation are built in the data caused by change and unusual situation. They follow no discernible pattern, so they cannot predict it. Can you look at the graphic? So I will tell about this. The graphic show us illustration and demand over 4 years period. It is show the average, trend, seasonal components, and random variation around the demand curve. The average demand in the sun of the demand for each period divided by numbers of data periods. You can see X factor is time years and W factor is about demand for product service. We're going through about the how is a forecast count. A moving average forecast uses a number of historical actual data value to generate a forecast. Moving average are used if we can assume that market demand will stay fairly steady over time. A 4-month moving average is found by simply summing the demand during the past 4 years or dividing by 4, which is passing months, and the most recent month data are added of the sum of the previous 3 months data and earliest months is dropped. This practice trend to smooth out short-term irregularities in the data series. So mathematically, the simple moving average is which server is an estimate of the next period demand is expressed like the rules is moving average as sigma demand in previous and period divided by n, whereas n is a number of periods in the moving average. Like for example, 4, 5, or 6 months, respectively for 4, 5, or 6 period moving average. We can see the example. Donna's Garden Supplies won a 3 months moving average forecast, including a forecast for next January for sheet sales. you can see the tables. We use I say MA is moving average. The forecast for December is 22 per 3 to project the demand for sheet in the coming January. We sum the October, November, and December sales divided by 3. January forecast is 18 plus 16 plus 14 divided by 3 is about 16. You can see that, right? So management now has a forecast that average sales for the last 3 months. It's easy to use and understand. Okay, next. When a detectable trend or pattern is present, weights can be used to place more than emphasis or recent value. So after MA, we can make it going to the emphasis and recent value with weighting moving average. The rumus is sigma weight for period and times demand in period and divided by sigma weights. We can see the example again. This is the second example. With the same case is Donna's Garden Supplies wants to forecast storage and sheet sales by the weighting the past 3 months with more weight given to recent data to make them more significant. You can see the first column. The first table is about weight apply and period. 3 is last month, 2 is last 2 months ago, 1 is 3 months ago, and divided by 6 is sum of weight. Forecast is for this month. So 3 times sales last month plus 2 times sales 2 months ago plus 1 times sales months ago and divided by sum of the weight. We can see, all of you can see for the next table is about, in this particular forecasting situation, you can see that more heavily weighting the last months provide a more accurate projection. And I present the graphic. It's a plot of the data from example 1 and 2. Illustrate illustrate the lag effect of the moving average models, not about the moving average and weight moving average line lag the actual demand. The weighted moving average, however, usually react more quickly to demand change, even in period or downturn, like see in November and December. It's more closely tracks the demand. And then the measuring forecast error. The first is measure of the over forecast error from models is mean absolute deviation, or we can say MAD, MAD. This value is computed by taking the sum of absolute values of the individual forecast error deviation and dividing by the numbers of the periods of data. The mean, the second is mean squared error and MSE as a second way of measuring overall forecast error. MSA is the average of the square differences between the forecast and observed value. A problem with both MAD and MSE is that their value depend on magnitude of the item being forecast. If the forecast item is measured in 1,000, the MAD and the MAD and MSE value can be very large. To avoid this problem, you can use like mean absolute percent or error or MAPE. But I don't think I will explain about the MAPE. Okay. So this is the last slide, the summary. We can summary about this forecast are critical part of the operation manager function. Demand forecast drive a firm production capacity and scheduling system, and evaluate the financial, marketing, and personal planning function. The second is there are a variety of quantitative and qualitative forecasting techniques. Qualitative approach employ judgment, experience, is intuition, and a host of other factors that are difficult to quantify. Qualitative forecasting use historical data and causal or associative relation to project future demands. And the last, no forecasting model is perfect under all conditions. Even once management has found a satisfactory approach, it must still monitor and control forecasts to make sure error do not get out of hand. Forecasting can be often be very challenging but rewarding part of the managing. Okay, thank you very much for others, and goodbye.